century ago holds important lessons for us today, as we hear from New York Times columnist Charles Blow.
100 years ago today in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a black teenage shoe shiner named Dick Rowland stepped onto an elevator being operated by a 17-year-old white girl. Wild allegations about what happened on that elevator between the two teens would lead to one of the most notorious massacres in American history. Rowland was arrested the next morning, and the Tulsa Tribune printed an incendiary article claiming that the young man had attempted to assault the girl. A white mob descended on the courthouse, demanding that Rowland be turned over to them. Armed black men showed up to defend Rowland and prevent him from being lynched. Gunfire soon erupted. It would lead to what would become known as the Tulsa Massacre, as white people began to shoot black people on sight. As many as 300 people were killed and 8,000 were left homeless as the once thriving, self-sufficient black community of Greenwood, also known as Black Wall Street, was reduced to ashes. Rather than remember and atone for this atrocity, Tulsa began efforts to erase the incident from history. But it could not be erased from the memory of those who lived it. In 2018, I had the great honor of interviewing Olivia J. Hooker, one of the last known survivors of the Tulsa Massacre. She was a spry 103 years old when I met her. She would die just 2 months later. Hooker was a little girl at the time of the massacre, just 6 years old, and she remembers things as a child would. The terror of hiding with siblings beneath an oak dining table as the legs of white terrorists moved around it. It was the memory of those men destroying, defiling, or stealing all the beautiful things, the things that represented the reality of black refinement or held the possibility of black joy. They took a hatchet to my sister's piano. They poured oil all over my grandmother's bed. They took all the silverware that Mama had just got for Christmas. If anything looked precious, they took it. Her reflections illustrated clearly to me that this massacre wasn't only about an incident on an elevator or terror and mass murder. It was also about covetousness and spite, about the erasure of a black excellence that by its very existence posed a fundamental threat to white supremacy. Black Wall Street represented black prosperity even in an age of oppression, so white supremacy had to destroy.
And the core principle of the left and the working class movements since their origin. That's why every union is called an international. Everybody's in favor of globalization. Now, the term has been appropriated by a narrow sector of power and privilege to refer to their version of international integration, the investor rights version. And that makes sense for them to try to because anyone who's opposed to their version then becomes anti-globalization, meaning some kind of primitive, wants to go back to the Stone Age or something like that. It's a bad error on the part of the critics of this investor rights version of integration to accept the term anti-globalization. They should not. We're all in favor of globalization. The question is it going to be in the interests of people or in the interests of private power? But everybody's in favor of it. Okay, like nobody's opposed to the fact that you can call up your friend in Italy or something like that. That's integration. Right now, has internet, just using the term neutrally now, what has it increased or has it decreased? Well, in many respects it's decreased. So if you look at international economic integration, there are a lot of different measures. I mentioned one. There's a technical measure, which is convergence towards a single price and wage, single market. Well, that's declining. During the period of the last 25 years, it's been declining. Furthermore, it's predicted to decline even further. Okay, so the investor rights version of globalization is it's to lead to less globalization in the technical sense. More globalization in their sense means they have control more of the wealth and power in the world. So that's one question. Take what Adam Smith meant by, okay, you're supposed to love Adam Smith. The core of free trade, according to Adam Smith, is what he called free circulation of labor, meaning people can go wherever they want. If you don't have that, you can't begin to talk about free trade. Well, if we measure that, what's happened to globalization? Well, it turns out the peak period was about over a century ago. Relative to population, the ability of people to move around was higher then than it's ever been since. Not for pretty reasons, incidentally. I don't mean that the reasons were nice. The reasons were that people who were fleeing the horrors of the Industrial Revolution in Europe could come to the United States and massacre the population and take over their land. Okay, like it wasn't a pretty reason, but the fact, just in terms of movement of people across borders, is that it was higher then than it is now. I mean, that's why my parents ended up on gas train. Okay, because there was a lot of globalization in the sense of movement across borders. That's decline. And in fact, what has increased, on the other hand, by other measures, globalization has increased very fast.
Clear. One Afghan soldier decides to make a stand.
JAMSHEED, he's the leader of the 10 A&A that were working with us for the mission. He carries an RPG with a backpack full of like 5 more rounds, and he was bragging to us beforehand about how he's killed 5 Taliban or something the week before with his RPG.
What's he doing?
So we're in the middle of our firefight, and all of a sudden we see JAMSHEED just walking up like a boss. Not scared of anything. Rounds coming around them, like everyone else is down, behind cover. He's just walking up in the wide open.
Go get him, brother.
With his RPG over his shoulder.
He's gonna go fuck this shit up.
He just stands up, posts up, and starts aiming at the green zone where we're taking fire from.
He ain't gonna fire an RPG just because. Good shot.
America, motherfucker.
Perfect. You couldn't get a more perfect RPG shot than he had.
There you go, JAMSHEED.
Afterward, he had a huge smile on his face, like giving a thumbs up. Everyone was like yelling for JAMSHEED.
Be like, oh, you Americans, just laying in the dirt.
So he proved to be a boss, like he said he was before the mission. هوليوود هوليوود سينما فينيش وانا RPG طالبان فينيش طالبان
Each one of you is really the great self. And you say, well, all you've said up till now makes me fairly sympathetic to this intellectually. But I don't really feel it. What must I do to feel it really? My answer to you is this. You ask me that question because you don't want to feel it really. You're frightened of it. And therefore, what you're going to do is you're going to get a method of practice so that you can put it off. So that I can say, well, I can be a long time on the way getting this thing. And then maybe I'll be worthy of it after I have suffered enough. See, because we are brought up in a social scheme whereby we have to deserve what we get. And the price that one pays for all good things is suffering. But all of that is precisely postponement. Because one is afraid, here and now, to see it. If you had the nerve, you know, real nerve, you would see it right away. Only that would be, when one feels you shouldn't have nerve like that. That would be awful. That would be, that wouldn't do at all. Because after all, I'm supposed to be poor little me. And I'm not really much of a muchness. And I'm playing the role of being poor little me. And therefore, in order to be something great, like a Buddha or a Jivan Mukta, one liberated in this life, I ought to suffer for it. So you can suffer for it. There are all kinds of ways invented for you to do this. And you can discipline yourself, and you can gain control of your mind, and you can do all sorts of extraordinary things. I mean, you can drink water in through your rectum and do the most fantastic things. But that's just like being able to run the 100 yards in 9 seconds, or any other kind of accomplishment you want to engage in. There's absolutely nothing to do with the realization of the self. The realization of the self fundamentally depends on coming off it. You know, the sort of, when we say to people who put on some kind of an act, we say, oh, come off it. And some people can come off it. They laugh and say they suddenly realize, you know, they were making fools of themselves, and they laugh at themselves and they come off it. So in exactly the same way, the guru, the teacher, is trying to make you come off it. Now, if he finds he can't make you come off it, he's going to put you through all these exercises so that you'll, at the last time, when you've got enough discipline, enough suffering, and enough frustration, you'll give it all up and realize you were there for the beginning and there was nothing to realize. So this tremendous schizophrenia in human beings of thinking that they are rider and horse, soul in command of body, or will in command of passions, wrestling with them, all that kind of split thinking simply aggravates the problem. And we get more and more split. And so we have all sorts of people engaged in an interior conflict which they will never resolve, because the true self, either you know it or you don't. If you do know it, then you know it's the only one, and the other, so-called lower self, just ceases to be a problem. It becomes something like a mirage. And you don't go around hitting at mirages with a stick or trying to put reins on them. You just know that they're mirages and walk straight through them. And so that split is implanted in us all. And because of our being split-minded, we are always dithering. Is the choice that I am about to make of the higher self or of the lower self? Is it of the spirit or is it of the flesh? Is the word that I have received of the Lord or is it of the devil? And nobody can decide. Because if you knew how to choose, you wouldn't have to.
You finally up, huh?
There's no beef in here. So you wouldn't really call it bell peppers and beef, now would you?
Yes, I would.
Well, it's not!
It is when you're broke, all right?
I feel so heavy. But I finally feel at ease. Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you?
Yeah, I understand. As if. Bang.
You should see yourself. You have any idea what you look like right at this moment, Spike?
What?
A ravenous beast. The same blood runs through both of us. The blood of a beast who wanders, hunting for the blood of others.
I've bled all that kind of blood away.
Then why are you still alive?
To start bombing some small country that only has a marginally effective air force? Seems to me like we're a couple of weeks overdue to drop high explosives on helpless civilians. People who have no argument with us whatsoever. I think we ought to be out there doing what we do best, gang, making big holes in other people's countries. I hate to be repetitious, but God, we are a warlike lot, you know? We can't stand not to be fucking with somebody. We couldn't wait for that Cold War to be over, could we? Just couldn't wait for that Cold War to be over so we could go and play with our toys in the sand. Go play with our toys in the sand. And when we're not invading some sovereign nation, or setting it on fire from the air, which is more fun, then we're usually declaring war on something here at home. Do you ever notice that? We love to do that, don't we? We love to declare war on things here in America. Anything we don't like about ourselves, we have to declare war on it. Don't do anything about it. We just declare war on it. We got a war. It's the only metaphor we have in our public discourse for solving a problem. It's called declaring a war. We got a war on poverty, the war on crime, war on litter, the war on cancer, the war on drugs. But you ever notice there's no war on homelessness, is there? No war on homelessness. You know why? There's no money in that problem. There's no money in that problem. Nobody stands. It's true. Nobody stands to get rich off of that problem. You could find a solution to homelessness where the corporate swine and the politicians could steal a couple of $1 million each. You'd see the streets of America begin to clear up pretty goddamn quick. I'll guarantee you that. I will guarantee you that. So, I got an idea for homeless. You know what they ought to do? You know what they ought to do? Give the homeless their own magazine. Give them their own magazine. It would make them feel better for one thing. That's a sure sign of making it in this country. Every group in this country that makes it and arrives at a certain level has its own magazine. You have Working Mother magazine, Black Entrepreneur magazine, Hispanic Business magazine. In fact, any activity engaged in by more than 4 people in this country has got a fucking magazine devoted to it. Skydiving, mountain climbing, snowmobiling, backpacking, bungee jumping, duck hunting, shooting someone in the asshole with a dart That's the kind of answer you get from a conservative American businessman. So, yeah, let them read it. When they get finished reading, they can use it to plug up the holes in them piano crates they all seem to like to live in. A good, sound, practical, conservative American business solution. I'll tell you what they ought to do about homelessness. First thing, change the name of it. Change the name of the condition. It's not homelessness, it's houselessness. It's houses these people need. A home is an abstract idea. A home is a setting. It's a state of mind. These people need houses. Physical, tangible structures. But where are you gonna put them? Where are you gonna build them? Nobody wants you to build low-cost housing near their house. People don't want it near them. We got something in this country, you've heard of it, called NIMBY, N-I-M-B-Y. Not in my backyard.
Because they're missiles. They cause nothing but problems, those things do. Because if one of these skateboards or ski boards, whatever they're called, hit a person, they'd break their leg because they're just like a missile. And most of them have no brakes on them. So nobody is allowing them on any of the mountains around.
But where there's a will, there's always a way. Ski hill operators refuse to let anyone with a snowboard onto the chairlift, so they have to hike to the top of the mountain and then find a secluded ski trail where they won't get caught. The ski patrol says it's got its hands full.
Quite a lot of them are uncooperative. Some of them have had a little bit to drink, and smart alecks. You know, you go up and approach them in a very calm, collect manner, and they tend to lip you off. You ask them very nicely to leave, that they're endangering the public and possibly themselves, and they swear at you, they tell you to get lost, mind your own business. So it's quite a problem for us, really.
I think the major problem with the snowboards is that they run into people. You know, they can't see behind them, and when you get skiers and snowboarders together on a run, you're looking for trouble.
But the snowboarders don't see it that way.
You got this powder strap right here, it holds you on like a brake. Your board can't go any more than 3 feet away from where you are. Skiers have brakes on their skis or straps about the same thing.
So why are these people upset then?
I don't know, they just don't like how it looks. They think it's dangerous. They don't want no new equipment or anything probably up there. Some gadget or something.
Skiing is the same way, you know. People, you know, they get on skis and they just think they can overcome the world, and they just head down most, you know, their capacity, and they hurt other people just like a snowboard.
I think they should let them give them a trial run and let them try them out and see how they go, and if they have a high fatality rate with them, they should take them off.
Even if snowboarding is just another California fad, the people who work on local ski hills say one season is one too many.
they don't see our point, they only see their own point, and it's sort of a tunnel vision of a sort.
Do you see any compromise in the future at all?
No, skiing is becoming more and more popular, and if these boards become more and more popular, it's going to be more hassles, more confrontation, so we just like to say.
That was like a much highly criticized by Western countries in that period, but now many of them also like banned Russia Today or some other proxy media because this is even not the media itself in the classical mood.
In projecting his own message, President Zelensky has toured the country, assuring troops and residents that they stand ready to meet whatever the Russian military might have in store.
Нас не лякають жодні прогнози. Нас не лякають жодні люди, жодні вороги. Нас не лякають будь-які дати, бо ми будемо себе захищати.
Increasingly, though, Ukrainian experts believe it's inevitable that violence will increase with their country as a casualty of a Russian attempt to reset international relations.
It's about two things. One is to establish new geopolitics. Actually, to adjust current rules, the Second World War, to the current geopolitics, how Putin sees it. And it means spheres of influence. And the second point is Ukraine. The whole mere existence of Ukraine, not just the success story. A mere existence on Ukraine is a fundamental blow to the Russian system, how Putin believes he created it.